G'day everyone, Michael from Leatherwork here. I've seen a lot of unfinished leather edges recently and it's really not hard to finish an edge properly. What do I mean by an unfinished edge though? This is a belt that I made for myself a while ago. The edge isn't very well finished at all. I don't think I did anything to this one. It's just a rough leather edge. I think I maybe ran an edge slicker over it a tiny little bit, but I didn't finish it properly. This is off one of our back scabbards. You can see the edge of this belt is rounded, nicely rounded. The fibers are pushed down. So this has been edge slicked. It's been wet and edge slicked. It's been done properly. There are better ways to do it than this as well. This is just a basic edge finish, but you can see just how much nicer that looks compared to this dodgy flat edge here and a really nice round edge here. The other difference is that this edge here hasn't got any protection on it, so it's just rough, loose fibers. This edge, the fibers have been compressed down, they've been wet, they're held together reasonably well. As I mentioned before, there are other ways of doing this, such as adding beeswax to the edges, and that'll hold the fibers down even more, and I'm going to show you how to do that too. So what do I need to slick an edge? There's a few ways to do it. You can get machines that help you do it. You don't need any of that kind of thing. There's only two tools that you really need. And in fact, with thinner leather, you only really need one of them. This is the tool that you need. This is an edge slicker. You can see all it is a turned piece of wood that's got some different little angles in it, and they're just for rubbing on things. You could make one of these yourself if you've got a lathe. Really, you don't even need it to be round like this. You could just have a stick with these curves. The other tool that you should use if you're doing thicker leather particularly, this is an edge beveller. These come in various sizes. This is, I think, a number 3. And this is the main one I use for 3 or 3.5 mil leather. What this does is cuts the edges off the leather, so it sort of makes it semi-round, and then when you use the edge slicker, it's easier to get that round edge on. So I'm going to show you how to use these tools. This one is like about $5. This one's about $8 to $10. I think with current pricing, they're more like $10. These are basic craft tools. You can get them from Lefflers if you're in Melbourne. You can order them from Tandy. It's the same range. These, if you buy them from Lefflers, they're called Ivan tools. If you buy them from Tandy, they're called Craft Tool. They're exactly the same thing. So as you can see, the tools are quite simple. They're very basic tools. There's no reason not to finish an edge if you've got the tools. And the benefits of finishing an edge properly, slicking it properly, the leather is stronger, it'll last longer, the edge isn't going to fray, and it's far more comfortable to wear. Imagine you're wearing a square edge as opposed to a nice rounded edge. It's night and day, the difference, and it just looks so much better when they're finished. So anyone who has the tools and isn't bothering to finish their edges is just, they're making their own pieces terrible. So how do we slick an edge? It's really very simple. So I've got a couple of pieces of leather here. I'm just going to show you the basic technique. So we've got an edge of leather here. You can see it's just flat edge. We're going to make that nice and round. So we take our edge beveler and we run it along the top edge of the leather. It's too easy. Then we flip the leather over, run along the back edge. Again, not hard at all. You can see how quick this is. So now, if you can see it there, we've got a beveled edge on the leather. It already looks way better just like that, but we're nowhere near finished yet. This isn't a professional finish. This is still rough. It's still not comfortable, and that's still gonna, the fibers there, you can see, you can just peel those fibers up. So we're gonna need a sponge. Oh, I forgot, tools. You're gonna need a sponge and some water. Sponge, got some water here. Just gonna rub that along the edge. You want to get a decent amount of water. You don't want to soak the leather, but you want to get it nice and wet. Now, bit of a tip, if you're going to be staining this leather or finishing the leather properly, if this is the first time you've wet the leather, you want to just put a bit of water on the whole thing, because otherwise you're going to get water stains. The first time you wet it, you should always just make sure you do the whole thing, unless you're very careful and only get the edge. So we've wet that edge down. I'm going to take the edge slicker. Now there's a few ways you can do this depending on how good you want the edge to be. I'm just going to use this second notch here, because that's about the thickness of my leather. And all you need to do, just rub it along the edge like that. Now this is still a little bit fibrous. You can see that. How much nicer is that? Nice round edge, nice and smooth. I'm just gonna, because the weather's a bit hot today, and this leather is quite thick, and it's never been touched before, this bit of leather. I'm just going to quickly, now I'm using the bigger one here, I'm just going to smooth the edge off nicely with the larger. So this isn't really going to round it properly, this is just going to sort of mush it down. You can see it sort of gives a bevel outside to the edge, which is real ugly. Now I'm going to go back to my smaller one, just going to quickly get those edges to come back in, get nice and round. I'm going to go down even smaller now. Now you don't need to go to this level, I just want to show you how far you can take it. Now this leather is very fibrous, you can see on the back here it's not a very well tanned piece of leather, so the edge is a bit dodgy still. But you can see just how much nicer that is. Nice, flat and round. This is still, I'll tell you, it's a little bit rough because of this poor tanning on the back of this piece. This is dodgy beeswax polish from Bunnings. This is about 12 bucks. I've tried using other things, and honestly this is, for the price, this is quite a good compound. So I'm just gonna find something to wipe this on with. Just grab a rag here. There you go, tools, you might need a rag. And obviously you're gonna need some beeswax if you want to go this far. You can use pure beeswax if you can get it cheap. I would recommend doing that, or carnauba wax, which is used in cars. So if you've got carnauba wax sitting around, I would give that a go. That's what's usually used for this. I'm just a bit economic, and I have found this compound works well. This actually has carnauba wax and beeswax in it. So you just rub a bit of that on the edge, and then give it a bit of a slick, and it's so much easier now because the beeswax is really slick. You just rub that beeswax in there. Now what this will do as well, just using water, it will still leave the edge a little bit fibrous, and over time it will eventually peel back up. If you wax it like this, you're pretty much doing a permanent finish. And in situations where you've got two bits of leather stuck together and you're trying to even the whole edge out, smooth the whole edge together, you get a much better finish using some beeswax or a compound like that. Dubbin can be used on the edges. The problem with Dubbin is it's not a permanent solution. Now this is beautiful and smooth, so the fibrousness I was talking about from this dodgy tanning is gone. This is just a beautiful smooth edge. The beeswax just compounds all those fibers down and holds them all together beautifully. So if you want a perfectly finished edge, you can see, hopefully in the video, you'll be able to see down this end it's still a little bit rough, and but up this end it's beautiful. That's just perfect. And obviously down here, if we give that a bit more of a smoothing, look at that. Lovely, perfect smooth edge all the way down. Now something to bring up there is, depending on which way you're going, leather has a grain, like just about everything in nature has a grain. If I pull this back this way, it gets a little bit rough again because the grain on this bit of leather is running this way. So that's smoothing it down like your pet's fur or whatever, and this way is going to bring it back up. But you can see that's a beautiful, lovely edge, folds perfectly. That'll be so smooth against your skin, edge of a bracer, particularly if you're doing some chest armor for a woman. You know, you don't want it digging up under their breasts, under the arms, all that sort of thing. The bottom of your stomach as well, you don't want it digging into your lower belly. It's a really nice way to do it, and if you're not finishing the edges of your leather, you're really selling yourself short, because how much better does that look than that? Alright, so you're saying, oh, but Michael, I don't have tools, I've just bought leather, I've just started, I just need to get this done, don't have time for this fancy edge beveling. Well, if you've got the time but not the tools, you can do it another way. Now, I would never do it this way because, frankly, I don't have the patience or really the dexterity in my hands anymore. But using a Stanley knife, you can bevel that edge yourself. Just pull that edge off. You can see if you've got the manual dexterity to do that, it's really not that hard to do. Remember, always do the back as well if you want that nice round edge. I'll take a bit more off the back because I don't think I took enough off the front. You can see, I mean, that's pretty horrible. Not very well done there, Mr. Edwards. Just gonna take a bit more off this side. And you can see this is so much less precise if you needed a particular edge, if you've cut a bit to a certain size. This is a much less precise way of doing it, whereas the edge slicker, or sorry, the edge beveller is very predictable. So you see I've just cut a rough triangle on the edge there. Now we've got our edge slicker, but you don't have an edge slicker. So I'm just going to use a bone folder. Now I'm using this bone folder to represent basically any roundish object that you can find. You could use a spoon from the kitchen, you find a stick, chopsticks work, there's all sorts of things. Everyone's got something that looks vaguely like a bone folder. All a bone folder is some nice corners with rounding on them. I mean, you can make something like this pretty easy. As I say, a spoon will do it. Same technique, wet that edge down. Now this isn't going to look as nice, but all I'm just going to do is just rub that edge with my bone folder or random tool. Just use my fingers a bit, make sure that's a bit smoother. So you can see that is a much rougher edge because I'm not using the right tools. I can't really get in there and push it down like I can with the edge slicker. But you can see that's still a much nicer edge than that is. Now I'm just going to quickly grab the edge slicker and show you. So if you don't have an edge beveler, but you can afford the $5, or easily, as I say, you can make one of these very, very easily. If you've got a half round file and a piece of wood, you can make something equivalent to this. But they are, as I said, literally like $5, $6. I can't remember exactly, but not at all expensive. But you can see there, even without an edge beveler, that's a really nice edge. And that's just cutting it with a Stanley knife, then rubbing it down. So there you go, guys. You can see just how easy it is to finish the edge of leather. Here's the one we did first. This is the one with the beautiful wax finish. So that's using just an edge beveler, an edge slicker, and a $12 pot of wax from Bunnings. This is the one we did with no specialty tools at all. So this is just with a knife and the edge slicker, which, as I say, you can make your own edge slicker equivalent. I really like these, and you can actually shove this in a drill and sort of make an automatic one, but that's more complicated, probably a story for later. But you can easily make a bit of wood that's got the cutouts to do that yourself. So I don't even consider this a specialty tool, particularly since it costs like $5. And this is just a bit of leather I grabbed. You can see rough edge there. What looks better to you? What would you want the edge of your armour to look like? What would you want rubbing against your skin? Completely unfinished, bit of hand finishing with no tools at all, or lovely finished wax. I often don't do the edges of things like some bracelets. Sometimes you might like the look. There are things that look better in hard edge. There are things that look better in soft edge. But for comfort and general appearance, always do your edges. There's no excuse not to. I'm Michael from Leatherwork. Thanks for watching.